Hello, MOA students and any other student who is not on campus today. It's Mr. Wilkes with your instructions for Tuesday, February the 2nd of 2021. This is the first school day of Black History Month, so I'm actually going to start with that. Your Achieve 3000 article of the week is called Remembering the Amistad. It is not due until Friday. But it is the first of a series of A3K articles we will do this month on Black History Month. So that'll be our focus for Achieve 3000 in the month of February. Okay, looking at our goal for today, notice we have the exact same goal for today and tomorrow. Okay. I can analyze and explain the key inventions in the early days of the Industrial Revolution by completing two reading activities, that should say plural, and I'm about to fix that. That's embarrassing. And taking notes in a graphic organizer in my digital interactive notebook. Now, we're going to get to the assignments in just a minute. And by the way, there's only one reading activity today. There'll be a second tomorrow. Okay, so we're going to do half the notes today and one reading assignment. Then tomorrow we'll do the second half and a reading assignment. Big picture, let me explain what's going on here. So the Industrial Revolution is a massive explosion of new technologies that was brought on by the Enlightenment, which was a massive explosion of new scientific and philosophical ideas. So we talked about the Enlightenment all the way back when we talked about the 13 colonies and when we talked about the writing of the Constitution, that you had all these great thinkers in the Renaissance after the Crusades, and people in Europe chiefly began to read stuff from writers in Asia, writers in the Middle East. They rediscovered the ancient works of the Greeks and the Romans. And so you had this confluence of rediscovered ideas from past civilizations and ideas from all over the world coming together and starting to build, honestly, our modern world. And so by the middle of the 1700s in Europe, you begin to see the explosion of the Industrial Revolution. You're going to get factory production, you're going to get consistent goods. The United States is going to resist that. Thomas Jefferson has this idea that we should be a nation of farmers, an empire of agriculture. Jefferson's idea was let Europe have the big crowded cities and the factories. Americans can benefit from all that technology without being the ones who actually have to make it all. We could keep a traditional agricultural life and trade with Europe, who's going to do all of this. But we know that when we get to the War of 1812, the American mentality on that's going to begin to shift, mostly because the British Navy made it where we could not buy factory products, obviously from England, because we were in a war with England, and you don't stop in the middle of the war. Pardon me, let's quit shooting. I need to buy some socks. You don't do that, but partially because the British Royal Navy made it almost impossible for us to buy things from France and Spain and the Dutch, other industrializing European powers. So starting with the War of 1812, you begin to see this slow process of industry and therefore urbanization, the building of big cities in the United States. Now, let's be clear. This is a slow process. It starts in 1812 and it's still happening today, right? And up until World War II, so from 1812 until 1845, even as America was becoming more and more industrial, even as by World War II, America becomes the dominant industrial power on earth, the majority of Americans lived on family farms or in small towns. We're talking like 5,000 people or less, right? It's not until the second half of the 20th century that you get the majority of Americans living in cities. Now, they might be small cities like Big Spring, medium-sized cities like Midland, or they might be big cities like Dallas and Houston. I don't want to give the idea that when the Industrial Revolution hits America, that we flip a switch and everybody goes from the farm to the factory overnight. This is a long process. And like I said, it's still happening. We're still in the Industrial Revolution. It hasn't ended. There's new technology all the time. Our lives are changing all the time. So another way to think about this unit is to realize we're not looking at artifacts from some bygone era in history. you're looking at the baby pictures of the society we live in. So when you look at these early steps in the Industrial Revolution, you're looking at the early stages of the America you and I now occupy. In other words, to borrow the title of a TV show that tends to jump back and forth in time that I don't really enjoy, but my wife likes crying, so she does. When we talk about the Industrial Revolution, this is us. This is who we are. So when we talk about these things, particularly by the time we get into the middle of the 1800s, we're not talking about them. We're not talking about ancient Rome. We're not talking about some society that we can't identify with. We're talking about our world. We're talking about our view of how life works. It's just in its early development. So this unit is very, very, very important because it's going to give you things that will help you make better sense of what's happening in 2021. So I hope you pay attention. Okay. And I don't want to make this video any longer than it needs to be, so let's move on, and the rest of this will go rather quickly. So you have a Google form, and once again, there's a Google form, and there's a reading. And if you've been at SJ for any length of time, the other teachers use these too. So even if you're new to me, you've seen one of these before. Please remember, the answers are in the text. It's not a test. Go back and forth, scan, look. I should not see failing grades on these things. I shouldn't. Right? Now, some of the questions make you think I'm stretching you. So, okay, if you're a struggling reader, you might not get an A, but I should not see a 40 on these. If I see a 40, you're just bubbling. Don't do that. Use the reading, okay? And then the interactive notebook. So we open this up, and I've got a link here to a slideshow. This is all my notes and our interactive notebook, okay? And so this is a big interactive notebook. We're going to chunk it up, but you've only got 3 weeks to get this done. I will have videos for all this, and literally for this one, everything you need. Now, page 4, we're going to talk about later in the week, and we're going to do some lecture with that. But outside of page 4, everything you need for the rest of this notebook is in these notes. Okay, I've got it for you. And so what we're going to do today is you're going to throw your name here on page 1. And then all you have to do today is page 2. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inventions. And I want to know what in the world was it? And if there's a name of the inventor, who invented it, right? So what was it? Who invented it? Some of these we don't have a named inventor, but some of them we do. Like you need to know the cotton gin is Eli Whitney. You need to know that. And then we have this question: how did it change America? Right? So what I want to know is, so what? They invented this thing. So what? Right? So let's do one together. Okay. So on this word wall, we have the steamboat, invented in France in 1783. I didn't bother to Google what Frenchman did it because we don't care for our purposes. These boats made it easier to move large amounts of goods, and many people along America's river systems. This encouraged migration to cities and factories and created demand for good. So on here, invented in France in 1783, made it easier to move people and goods up and down rivers. Okay, so how did it change America? Well, notice what we said on the slide, right? This encouraged migration to cities and factories. So it encouraged migration to cities, caused factories to grow. And one more thing that I didn't say on the slide, but it makes sense, right? If we're going up and down these rivers and connected places, right? That's sort of implied. That's it. So I've done that one for you. The rest you're going to do on your own. You only need to do page 1, okay? So you need to go through the Erie Canal and other canals, the cotton gin, steel tip plow, and the mechanized reaper. We'll do the rest of them tomorrow. Now, if you feel like working ahead, that's okay. You can do the whole darn thing today if you really feel like it. You've got the notes for the whole notebook, like I said, other than the map on page 4, which will be some lecture. But make sure today that you get page 2 complete and that you do the Google form on economic growth in the early industrial revolution. Tomorrow we'll have another reading and we will finish out page 3, and that'll be all of our new technologies. That's it. If you have questions, email me. Otherwise, talk to you guys.